Hi, friends. Happy day. I hope you're having an awesome day so far. I'm here with my fun little yellow mic. And today I'm actually going to do a tutorial. So it'll be a little bit of a longer video format, but I'm going to be teaching you how to project manage using the creative process. I've gotten a few requests from you guys on doing this. And so here we are. Now I will be migrating over to my computer, and you'll be seeing a screen recording of me and all of the different tools that I use to project manage. But basically, an overview, I project manage using the creative process. If you've never heard of this, well, you are in luck because I've got a free workbook and I've even got a class that's pretty well priced. It's 50 bucks, 49 to be exact. If you're interested in those, well, the workbook, I'll link both of them in the description. The workbook is free. I'm actually going to walk you through some of the workbook today in today's video. I did not go fully into detail because this would be super, super long, but I did give you enough to help you project manage. So I use that, and then I use different tools. So sometimes I use Google Sheets, sometimes I use Trello, sometimes I use Asana, sometimes I use Basecamp, and that's just over the years. Right now, I'm pretty much on Asana and Google Sheets, although truthfully, a lot of these project management tools are just glorified Google Sheets. So you can very well use that if you want. Use whatever works for you. However, my preference ultimately, it's not on software, but basically what I get out of it, my viewpoint, the ability of the software to give me the view that I want. Hence, Basecamp is my least favorite because it does not give me a bird's eye view of where we are with everything. Usually, in my roles, in my business, or and with my clients, I'm usually responsible for a bunch of things at the same time. And so Basecamp is not the best of that. No knock to Basecamp, but I do need to see where we are with several projects and the progress of each one of those. And so that is why I prefer to see a top to bottom view. And I will show you that. That's why I use the creative process as well. The goal here is that you understand this enough that you can implement it right away and you learn it as you do it so that you can get really good at spotting delays, issues, or so that you can celebrate and honor. Not everything needs to be awful news. Okay. But the goal is that you look at this stuff, you can look at a Google Sheet and say, hey, we're on track or not, and then address it accordingly. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do today. And if you have any questions, if the video is not good, if I'm confusing, or if I'm just really great, please let me know in the comments. I'm totally down to keep improving. I am new at YouTube and doing this kind of video content, and so I am here to learn just as you are. Okay, you're learning project management. I'm learning how to hold a mic. Okay, um, ultimately, whatever, we're in it together. All right, so um, stay tuned. That's not the right way to say it. How do I say this? All right, here's my desk. And we'll see you in the screen recording. Oh. Hi, friends. Happy day. Hope you're doing amazing. Like I mentioned in the little intro, I'm going to be teaching you today how to project manage. This is my way. It's worked for me in different contexts as a creative director in an in-house team and also as a creative director for my own business. Okay, so I have proved this concept in both scenarios and they work really well for me, so I'm going to share it with you and I'm going to walk you exactly through how I do it. Okay, so first things first, to start from the beginning, what is project management? Well, project management is team alignment. And I'm going to be looking over here because I have my notes, so I make sure I stay on track. So project management is team alignment. Okay, keep that in mind. Ultimately, the role of a project manager is to assist the stakeholders of the project to make sure that the team is moving onward within the timelines, following the proper project scope, is keeping within budget, and ultimately is turning in the deliverables that are expected. Okay, so that is the role of the project manager. Basically, you're overseeing a project from start to finish, okay? And you are responsible, or you're one of the people that are responsible for the outcome of this project. So your role overall as a project manager is very significant, and you are basically not just a stakeholder of the project, you're also a leader and an oversight of the project. Let me explain what I mean by that. So a stakeholder is somebody who's ultimately impacted by the outcome of the project. Stakeholders can be clients or oversights or people that make decisions, but you're also somebody in the role of the macro aspect of the project who's also responsible for a lot of decision making. So you're definitely a stakeholder in the project, and you're also a leader and oversight in the project. So definitely make sure that you take on that mantle, because you are helping guide the project, and you have information, usually you have information that the team does not have, because you are part of conversations and communication with the stakeholders that ultimately ensure that the project is moving along. Okay, so make sure that when you are project management or project managing, that you are definitely taking on the leadership mentality. All right, so the approach that you should be taking, here's your goal. Obviously, your ultimate goal is to make sure that the project is moving along. But as a project manager, the thing that you really want to be focusing on is clarity, okay? You want to be facilitating clarity and creating it as much as you can for everybody that's part of the team. That's for the people that are above you, that are next to you, or that are below you, okay? It basically makes up the whole team, and ultimately you want to create clarity, because you're going to help everyone get through the project. You're basically helping define the boundaries, okay? Think of like a highway. You know how we have like those bumpers, or even like for bowling, we have those bumpers. You're going to play that role, okay? I have this analogy, and I call it, it's a playground analogy, and I say creativity is a playground. But keep in mind that even playgrounds have boundaries and rules. Why do I say it this way? Because a lot of times people think of creativity as like having fun and just making things. And I definitely have been guilty of it myself, where I get so excited about a project that I just jump into actually making it. And I forget that there are boundaries and rules that should be considered, so that I follow through with the project, and so that I make sure that I'm making the thing that people need me to be made. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So you're part of this leadership team that's going to help ensure that these boundaries and rules are not just put in place, but also understood by everybody in the team. And you're also going to make sure that they get enforced, which means you may have to have combos every now and then to make sure that the team is in line and in alignment with the project, okay? Now, you are going to follow the creative process, okay? This is how I project manage. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk you through the creative process, and then I'm gonna show you very practical tools and ways that I do this, okay? Which I've already kind of previewed this sheet. If you follow me on Instagram, you have seen this sheet, but I'm going to start with the first thing, and that is the creative process. And I just realized that I closed my little worksheet. So let me open this up real quick. This is the creative process. I have a free workbook, and I'm going to link it in the description. I'm going to walk you through the workbook so that you are familiar with the creative process. I really think that the more these stakeholders of a project understand creative, specifically related to graphic design, the better it's going to be for everyone, the better you're going to lead, the more you're going to empathize, okay? So if you are in a leadership position within the creative department and you're not yourself making things, like doing the execution, I definitely recommend that you do your best to learn the practices of creativity within the context of graphic design. Now, something I do want to clarify is that graphic design, it's art, but it's not artistic, meaning it doesn't just follow feeling. For example, like, let me clarify. It's not painting, okay? Graphic design exists within the ecosystem of business. It was created to help facilitate a conversion, right? A conversion from a customer, potential customer, into gaining something that you're selling. That is the context of graphic design. That's why we have typography and colors and hierarchy and layout. We use all of these elements and these tools to do our very best to communicate and appeal to a user, a customer, okay? So understand that graphic design, it does need rules because the outcomes tend to be very specific, okay? So let's get through the creative process. So what is the creative process? It's a sequence of steps or actions that one is going to go through to generate an idea. Okay, so the main thing that I want you to take away from here is right here, a sequence of steps. Like I've just shared with you, the more organized a project is, the better it will be. It will let you scale. If you are familiar with business, if you've been in leadership for a while, you understand the importance of a system. Systems help you scale. They help you communicate. They actually are very beneficial to you as a leader. And so one of the systems that you should implement in your creative department is the creative process, making sure that everybody who works in the department follows the same way of doing things. It's going to become very helpful for you in the future, okay? Now, what is the creative process? This is my definition. You can absolutely Google this and find other creative processes. This is mine. I break it down into 3 phases, okay? They're right here. Phase 1 is discovery. Phase 2 is creative exploration. And phase 3 is implementation. I'm going to break those down a little bit more in the next page. I do want to share the objective of the creative process, okay? Ultimately, you're trying to identify new opportunities, okay? You're aiming to create new connections between different ideas. So we get hired, right? Or we get assigned a project. I'm talking for both scenarios. I'm talking as an in-house team and I'm talking as a creative business, okay? So whenever I say you get handed down a project, I mean you're an in-house team because you get given projects. And if I say you get a client, I'm talking in the context of business, okay? Ultimately, the goal, they hire you, you get hired, you get given the project because you are being trusted with the ability to come up with a new way of presenting something, okay? And ultimately, for best results, you want to engage in curiosity and commitment, okay? You've got to be curious. You've got to be wondering about stuff. How does this work? And why is this like that? The more questions you ask, the better it will be. And also, you've got to have a sense of commitment. You've got to see the project through. And you've got to do your best to do it within the guidelines that the stakeholders have established, all right? Let's get into the 3 phases. Phase 1 is discovery, okay? Your objective here is that you want to learn and align yourself. I always say this, I use this analogy. Imagine that this is the team, right? Actually, this is the project. These are the project goals. This is your team, okay? You guys are like this. What you want to do is you want to start aligning the team to the project goals so everybody is under the same understanding. There's different ways of doing that. A creative brief is part of that. Creating a deck is part of that. I won't go into too much detail for this context in that, but I definitely have those tools that you guys can look through my library and learn from. But ultimately, the thing that I want you to take away is that phase 1, discovery, you are discovering, okay? You're learning and you are aligning yourself, all right? Here's what you can expect to be doing. You're going to be gathering research, okay? In the instance of you being a project manager, your team will be doing the research, okay? You're going to be compiling the findings into a solution and you're going to be pitching. In every phase, there is a pitch, okay? I teach this in my class, the creative process. If you want to learn more about how all of those things get integrated, feel free to go. It's $49, okay? Now, here's what you should be expecting overall. As you're doing this behavior, okay, you as the project manager should be expecting that within phase 1, the team is getting oriented.
you're organizing ideas, and you're starting to plan for your creative direction. I detailed these things here because you want to know the behavior that should be taking place in each phase. Why? Because if you don't, then you're not able to have conversations, you're not able to call things out, you're not able to really understand the progress of a project and the health of the project, okay? So leverage the workbook to give you the idea and the context of what you should be happening in each phase. I've included a list here. You should be writing a creative brief. In phase 1, you should be defining the project scope. You should be building your dream team. You should start developing and assembling your project deck, scheduling your pitch presentations, internal pitches versus external pitches, and then any refinements, okay, that happen or that come about in that process. Okay, so that is phase 1, discovery. Phase 2, this is the fun part. This is what we all like to do if you're creative, is creative exploration. Okay, in this phase, the objective is to test and verify ideas. This is so important because sometimes we pitch things in phase 1 from our discovery. We come up with these ideas and they look really good on paper, but then when you move on to phase 2 and you're going to start developing the idea, you realize that they may not work. Okay, so you want to do your very best that you are verifying your ideas as much as possible as you're developing them. In every phase, you should be doing that. In phase 2, you should be doing it the most because that's where you actually open up software and you start coming up with concepts, okay? So you should be expecting to develop concepts, and as the project manager, you're gonna continue making sure that there is project alignment, all right? Here are some things that you're gonna be doing. Like I mentioned, developing concepts. You're gonna be looking into licensing and legal as a team. Those things are important. Again, scheduling your pitches, and then again, any refinements. So basically what I mean by pitches are, I personally like having 2 kinds of pitches, an internal and external. The internal pitch for me as the creative director is that the team that I've assembled to work on a project pitches to me. When I look at it and I feel good about it and I'm confident about it, then I take me and whoever needs to go into the stakeholder meeting, and we then pitch to the stakeholders. I never go into a stakeholder meeting without first having seen what the team is doing and being in agreement with what they're pitching. Okay, so that's what I mean by internal pitch versus the stakeholder or external pitch. And then when I say refinements are, well, every time you meet, there's a conversation that takes place, and usually there are notes, there are edits, there's feedback. And so what you're gonna do is you're gonna come back to the team, you're gonna work on those, you're gonna refine things, and then you're gonna go back to the stakeholders and show them your progress, okay? You're gonna end phase 1 with a set of visuals. So basically, you're gonna end phase 2 with a set of visuals, okay? Basically, let's say this is a brand new project, you're gonna end phase 2 with a logo, okay? Now, phase 3, this is where you start implementing everything that you worked on in phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, if you recall, is discovery, that's all your research. Phase 2 is creative exploration, all of your concepts. When those things get approved, then you get into phase 3, which is implementation. So now you're gonna start working on deliverables. If you're working on a branding project, like I mentioned, phase 1, you would have developed like your market strategy, your target audience, all of those things. Then you move into phase 2, you actually start coming up with concepts. The client approved a logo, so now you have color palettes, you have a vibe created, you have an actual logo, and then you're gonna move into phase 3 and then make the logo come to life. So you may need to make flyers, a website, you're gonna have to export all of the logos, you may need to animate the logo, etc. So all of those things depend on the project goals. For phase 3, your objective is to execute the solution. So in phase 1, what happened here? I can't highlight anymore. In phase 1, you would have came up with a solution. And so that is what you're gonna actually start implementing, okay? And here's what to expect, the behavior. You're gonna work on the deliverables. That is part of what you're gonna project manage, okay? and then you're also going to prepare for launch. All right. So some things that you're going to be doing, you're going to be assembling the style guide, which I explained down here, deliverables, any final approvals. You're going to prepare files for handoff, and you're going to launch the project and store your files. Okay. So that is the creative process. Okay. Those are the 3 phases. And I leverage that to actually project manage. And now I'm going to walk you through the practicality of how I project manage. Okay. So I use different tools. I don't think there is a right tool that you can use. You just need to find the one that you prefer. I have used different things. So I've used Google Sheets, I've used Trello, I've used Asana, I've used Basecamp. I've even tried, what is it called? Notion. I've also tried Notion. To be honest, a lot of these are like glorified Google Sheets. You can do a lot with a Google Sheet. However, the software, when you purchase a Basecamp or an Asana, they do have functionality that a Google Sheet doesn't have. So like notifications, and they're better with like organizing. They have tags and you can click the tags. Like they're more robust. But ultimately, you can project manage in any one of those platforms. Just pick the one that makes sense for you. Now, here's my tip. Personally, I like to project manage. I like to have 2 views. So a bird's eye view and then a very like micro view. So macro and micro. And I like to have the flexibility to go between the 2. In my role as a creative director, if I'm in a leadership role or if I'm the business owner, I like to have a macro viewpoint, a bird's eye view of everything that's going on, every project. Are we on track on projects? What's going on? Who's behind? Do I need to have convos, etc.? And then also micro. Remember how I said in phase 3, you're implementing? Well, that's the micro view. So every project has its own deliverables list. And I also like to be able to go into there and see where we are with certain things. Depending on the scope and the scale of a project, the deliverables list becomes even more important. For example, I just finished one of the biggest projects that I do, which is VooCon, and the deliverables list for that is massive. It must be like 500 to-dos, okay? And it's different things. There's print, there's digital, there's web, there's app, there's branding that needs to get done, there's video, there's all this stuff. So I need to be able to look at that project from a bird's eye view, knowing, okay, VooCon is moving along, VooCon environment is moving along, VooCon design is moving along, VooCon web is moving along. Okay, now let me go into design. Where are we with print? Let me go into web. Where are we with this web page, etc. And so I'm able to project manage on different levels. And that's why I prefer tools that give me the flexibility. Okay. So I will say Basecamp is my least favorite because it doesn't do that easily. Okay. I prefer things like a Google Sheet or like Trello, because it gives me a really quick bird's eye view of what's going on in the project. All right. Now let's get into this thing. I'm going to share this Google Sheet with you. Okay. So here's a sample of a bunch of projects, and I'm going to tell you how I use this and how I start kind of getting information from it and what I do with it. Okay. So project 1 is a booklet, and it has a project start date of July 8th. Today is July 15th. So this would have been started last week, or so it should have been started. This specific project is needed for August 5th. Okay. So very easily, I look at the timeline. That's about a month, right? Like 4 weeks. And then I start looking at the creative process and seeing where we're at specifically with that project. So I see this particular project has not been started, and we are already a week behind schedule, okay? And nothing has been started. So I'm not overly worried about it because I'm also considering the context of the project. It's a booklet. Because I'm a graphic designer, I'm able to understand how long things take. So that's an advantage that I have. That's why I recommend that you get as familiar as possible with the projects, okay, and what it takes to make them. However, we're 1 week behind, so then this is a project that I would have a combo on and see what happened, why are we late, let's adjust these dates, and let's get back on track, okay? Same thing with project 2, they have very similar timelines. Now let's go to project 3 here. This is a music project. It does not have a project start, which is a red flag. So I'm now gonna have a convo around why is this missing a date? We need to add a date to this. And then it also doesn't have a specific final date, which also doesn't help me with my timelines. So I would now talk to the team and ask them, hey, we need better dates here. And then there's no work that's been started. Now, I know that's not true because I actually worked on this last week. So then my combo there would be, hey guys, let's make sure this is updated, okay? Project 4 is a collection of talks. It's basically a sermon collection. And so that is set to start July 16th, so tomorrow, okay? And then they have about 4 weeks. So good. My check-in for today with the team would be, hey, we still feel good about starting this tomorrow? Yes? Great. No? Combo, okay? Next project, July 9th. This was supposed to be started last week. And I see that it has not been started. So that's where I bring up combo. Okay, so you get the point. That's how I start using something as simple as a Google Sheet to determine where we are on certain projects and then have the conversations so we make sure we're back on track. Project manager, I'm making sure that things are moving along. All right. Now, for the context of my business, this is, we've used Trello. We're now in Asana, but the templates that I have are in Trello. So that is what I'm showing you. You can build the same thing in Asana, okay? So for this particular client, this is a template. I'm gonna show you the actual client. Let me walk you through the template first. So in Trello, I would have a list called project assets because for the client work is a little different because it's kind of one-off projects. And so this particular one was a branding. So I needed to get familiar with the client. And so I include that stuff in project assets, okay? I'm a business, so I have a Kickstarter, which is our like questionnaire little interview that we do. Our proposal, I also include dates on here. And I would include any other things like if they have a style guide already, if they come with any logos or colors or things like that, I would include that in here. And then as you can see, then I break down my list by the 3 phases of the creative process. So when I come on here and I look at the project, I know where we're at more or less with each phase. Now, remember I told you I like macro, this is macro, and then micro. I'm able to then click on the card specifically and then see any details related to this project mood board, okay? That's where I get that micro view. Let me show you a true context of this thing, okay? So this is a project that we did, a branding project. It's called Roar Station. It was for a gym. And so if you notice here, project assets, I have all of my details, my Kickstarter. So I would actually attach the PDF of our questionnaire, okay? And then I would also include the proposals. Just sometimes you need to refer back to the proposal and you need to have this thing on there easily accessible, okay? So that I would have that there. And then any schedules. And then you would start seeing phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. In phase 1, remember all of the things I told you in the process that you would do right here? So those things are right over here, okay? So any research, my mood board, and any client notes from that pitch, you would find there, all right? So that way we're tracking things, we're tracking all of it. And this is how we end up project managing, okay? If I click here on mood board, you can see the mood boards that we presented to the clients and you can see any notes, okay? This is actually this is the way we presented these mood boards, okay? Beautiful. And then once all of this got approved, I left those cards there because I need to reference them, but then I would start building cards in my phase 2. So then I go into developing concepts once we get a mood board approved. I would start working on those concepts, and then any notes related to that, we would add here. See, I put we presented on October 5th, okay? And if you notice here, we actually we documented the client feedback as well. And then once we have concepts, the next thing would be to finalize the identity. So here we develop concepts, we pitch, and then once the client approves logo, we go into actually finalizing that, and that's what you see here. Once we finalize the logo, we go into phase 3, which is application. This is the deliverables list, okay? So here normally you would have a checklist of all of the different logos, not logos, all the different deliverables. So let's say you have print, you have web, you have a social post, you have email headers that you want to create. That is where then you start tracking your deliverables. Okay, so that is a practical example of an old brand identity, and just to show you guys how that came out, this is what Angel ended up putting together when the client approved. It was actually really fun and really cool, and we just project manage all of it using Trello. Okay, so that is basically how to project manage. And if you have any questions or anything that you want to know more of, or anything that I missed, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I hope this was super helpful for you. Have the best